into it. An Elite Eight game between Purdue and Tennessee was played Sunday afternoon in Detroit. It lived up to expectations. Both stars were tremendous. Both teams were great, but the better player and the better team ultimately prevailed. Final score, Purdue 72, Tennessee 66. Zach Edey, your reigning National Player of the Year, soon to be two-time National Player of the Year, finished with a career-high 40 points, 16 rebounds, plus a huge block on Dalton Knecht in the final minute. So Purdue is in the Final Four for the first time since 1980, and Matt Painter is no longer the best coach in college basketball who hasn't yet made a Final Four. That's because Matt Painter has now made a Final Four. Deadleg, Purdue is where Purdue was supposed to be. Your thoughts on the Big Ten champs telling their skeptics to STFU?
STFU indeed. Yeah, we got two really fun, really good stories here to talk about here on a Sunday night. And Purdue doing this in the context of the game, quality game, not great shooting, epic performances from the two best players in the sport with Edey and Knecht. And we got something that was just incredible. This was per ESPN Stats and Info that put this out. Purdue, Tennessee was the first time in the history of the tournament in which both teams involved in a game had a single player on their respective squads score at least half of their points. Edey goes for, I mean, he saves his greatest game for his latest game here with 40 points, 16 rebounds. Dalton Knecht in his own right goes for 37 on 31 shots. No one else around him could get much done. Knecht was the only Tennessee player in double figures. Fletcher Lawyer at least got 14 points. He helped him out a little bit there, but obviously it was just Edey one time after another. And this was our only 1-2 on the board in the regional finals, and we got a pretty good game. I mean, Purdue was able to close the door in the final 60 seconds, so it was not a game that came down to the final possession. I thought it was heading that way, Parrish, but how appropriate for Painter, for Edey, for Purdue. Not just to, they continue the Virginia blueprint here, lose to a 16, and now they still got two more wins to wait, and there's plenty of mountain to climb, but to do this and to do it so definitively, to get to this point where you were a team whose resume was elite all season, early season dominance in Maui. Now you're 33-4, ranked third at KenPom. Just I thought for Edey to take the team on his back, he dropped the F-bomb on CBS in the post game.
I know. I didn't know you could do that. I would have done that years ago if I knew you could do that.
Well, I don't know if you can do it. I think, Zach, once you drop 40 and 16 on Tennessee, then I think you're clear. GP.
All I know is that in the past 2 weeks, I've seen Zach Edey say the F word on CBS and Charles Barkley smoke in the CBS broadcast center. I didn't know you could do all these things.
Again, I don't think you can do those things, but Barkley and Edey, legends in their own right, and Edey has become a legend. I'll toss it back to you, but I did put this out there a couple times because to me this is the thing we demanded of Purdue. Minimally make the Final Four, otherwise you're not wearing off the stink of FDU. And for Edey to do that, he's going to win second straight National Player of the Year, to have a career high 40, and I've got a litany of notes on him, but I'm going to save on it. It's just he is an all-time college basketball legend. He just is. You do this, you get Purdue to its first Final Four in more than 4 decades, and you do it being the best player in the sport. Truly legendary status. What were your thoughts on what you saw play out in Detroit, GP?
Well, he was awesome, really from start to finish, and I thought you don't need a moment to be the 2-time National Player of the Year because he had that wrapped up no matter what happened today. But the block on Knecht in the final minute is like perfect because Knecht was, I want to be clear, there were never any challengers to Zach Edey for National Player of the Year. All right, none. This is like when we used to watch Katie Ledecky. Isn't that a real person, Katie Ledecky?
Katie Ledecky is a real person, yes.
Remember when she would swim and somebody would finish second, but it'd be like 70,000 yards behind her? Same deal in the National Player of the Year race. Like somebody's got to finish second, and I think it should be Dalton Knecht. But nobody was ever a serious challenger to Edey. But Knecht was the most serious challenger to Edey. And for him to have that block in that final minute to cap off a 40-point, 16-rebound effort was just awesome. And the post-game interview with Evan Washburn was great. Just showing, like, this is a guy who, keep in mind, he was asked in this NCAA tournament in a post-game setting about the pressure of Purdue, needing to get out of, at first it was just the first weekend. And then, of course, it was out of the Sweet 16. And then it was always going to be, out of the Elite Eight to the Final Four for the first time since 1980. And he consistently denied that there was any pressure. But you saw it all come out right there.
I agree.
Like, they've been listening for a solid year. For more than a year, they've been told they're frauds. For a solid year, they've been told they're just another good Big Ten team, but can't do anything in March. For a solid year, they have been, by some, not all, certainly not me. I'm 60% Boilermaker at this point. But by some, for a solid year, they have not been celebrated as much as they've been mocked. And so when you go out and knock off a 2 seed to go to the Final Four, and you have a 40-point, 16-rebound, big block in the final minute effort to make all of that a reality, then, that's when you're going to pop off a little bit, let the emotion come out, and he certainly did. But this is exactly why I've said multiple times over the past week or so, he can say there's no pressure on Purdue to get to the Final Four, but it's not true. It's cool if he doesn't feel it. But now we know he clearly felt it. That's what that post-game interview was. That was him letting all of that stuff that's been sitting in there for a year finally come out.
Yeah, I completely agree on that, and it provided a really tremendous moment. He also had a good moment in the post-game, not going to play it here on the pod, where he basically said, I've had a lot of people overlook me, and he's not wrong about that, but he was recruited by high major programs. Like, Baylor was in on him, and Purdue was obviously in on him with many others, but he noted he remembered seeing Rick Barnes walk into IMG Academy where, Edey was initially just a player that was not even on the rotational secondary team. And so understandably, like, some schools passed on him, but now he gets to sit there as a senior going to a Final Four as a program legend, the greatest player in Purdue men's basketball history, as sitting there as a 2-time player of the year and leading. Oh, by the way, the first leading scorer in men's D1 in a season to lead a team to a Final Four since Oscar Robertson in 60. That's a stunning stat that I didn't realize was in play until I heard it earlier in the day on the broadcast. Yeah, that's right. The Big O was the last time we had a guy lead the nation in scoring and also take his team to the Final Four. And remember, obviously, back when Oscar was playing with Cincinnati, we did not have a 64, 65, or 68 team field. Edey's also, and I'm really, Paris, I have no interest, to be honest, in giving the people that doubt Edey really any oxygen, because honestly, like, it's a very small percentage of people. They're very online, and they have nothing to stand on here. But the one thing I will say that reinforces why they don't have a case is when you see stats like this. Edey's the first guy to average 30 and 15 going into a Final Four since Elvin freaking Hayes did it in 1968. There's only 4 guys ever, and Edey's on the list to average at least 30 points and 15 rebounds through 4 tournament games. It's Edey, Hayes, the frickin' logo, Jerry West, and Wilt Chamberlain. I mean, just that kind of company is outrageous. And for Edey to step up in this game, and I know he went to the foul line a ton, but it doesn't matter. They leaned on him. Tennessee didn't challenge him enough on defense, in my opinion. They wanted to go all connect the way they did it. I get it entirely, but credit to him, credit to the Boilermakers. They also are sharing the sugar well, man. They've got 92 assists right now. It's the most assists by any team going into a Final Four since 96 Kentucky, which was outrageously talented and one of the best teams we've seen in the sport over the past 4 decades. So the key in the game for me was when, I actually tweeted in real time, there was a Tennessee got up 11. They went on a run, and I thought it was the first time Purdue really faced a moment of crisis. If you want to say the Wisconsin game in the Big Ten tournament, I guess fine, maybe, but like their 1 seed was assured. I wouldn't even say that was a moment of crisis. They just didn't win the Big Ten tournament. It's been a long time since Purdue, maybe since the FDU game, was facing a moment like that. And then what happened? They peeled off a 15-2 run to close the half. They turned it on its head from being down 11 to being up a bucket and winning the half up going into the break there. I thought that was really, really significant and spoke to the team's resolve. They rode Edey a ton, but Lawyer had some good moments. Smith, obviously, it wasn't his greatest game by any stretch, but he did play well. 9 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 turnovers in 36 minutes. They got just enough around him. And then the Lance Jones 3 late in the second half that put him up 6. it felt like it put them up 7 or 8. It was the one where I thought, okay, barring like the all-time Purdue moment here, they're going to win this game. And when they did, 72-66. And now Tennessee, as a result, it comes close. Final Four worthy team. This is how the bracket can break you sometimes. You just happen to get put in the same region as another really, really good team. Tennessee couldn't get it done. It is 0-6 now all-time in the tournament against 1 seeds.
Back to Zach Edey. He shoots twice as many free throws as Tennessee's entire team. After the game, Rick Barnes said, among other things, like he just never leaves the paint, so it's very hard. Is any of that valid from your perspective?
I mean, he does leave the paint, but he's good at his awareness and how they actually use him. I mean, he's a huge human being. Like, what do you want from me? Like, he is very hard to defend. He's hard to officiate. He's hard to officiate against. He is a game-breaking kind of player. And if anything, between him and what we got with DJ Burns, and obviously we're going to get to state in a second here, he is a generational player in terms of how he is used. And I credit Painter to the way that they use him and Edey for his own development. I find him to be very skilled. No, he's not ultra athletic, but for how big he is, I actually think he's pretty damn athletic for being that kind of size. We've seen other players be as tall, as big as him and still not, exhibit the kind of grace, IQ, passing ability as him. So it's a real terror to try and deal with him, and he lives in and around the paint, but I don't see him someone that's planting a flag there and drawing what should be a lane violation every other time down the floor. If you actually watch what he's doing, they deploy him really well. And sometimes like it's almost comical to see it, GP, and then it's yours to take it away, where it's like it's big brother taking on the 3 little brothers. And I should know that as the big brother of 3 younger brothers. Like I know that game. I was no Zach Edey when I was 13 and all my other brothers were 8 years and younger. But Tennessee just did not attack him enough defensively, in my opinion, and then they found themselves in foul trouble immediately, time and time again. That felt inevitable because of the way Tennessee plays. They're going to hack you a ton. They're going to play physical. They're just going to do that. And Purdue obviously is the most disciplined non-fouling team in the sport.
I guess I would say, as it pertains to the foul discrepancy, like I never care about foul discrepancy. Like there is nothing I find less interesting than somebody on TV saying this team has shot way more free throws than that team. It doesn't always mean anything. In fact, usually it means nothing. Often it's just a style of play thing. It's just like one team shoots a lot of jumpers and another team's constantly attacking or has Zach Edey. And so like that team's going to shoot more free throws than the team that's constantly shooting jumpers. And so when Tennessee fans or any fan base starts talking about free throw discrepancy, I want to get more specific always. Tell me what you're mad about. They shot way more free throws than you. Okay, that maybe they deserve to. Maybe you fouled them that much more. What exactly are you mad about? And I think if you were to ask Tennessee fans that, they wouldn't be able to find enough missed calls or imagined calls to close that gap in free throw discrepancy or foul calls. The biggest reason there was that kind of discrepancy is style of play. Tennessee fouls a lot, is very physical, and Zach Edey gets fouled a lot. So that's a perfect combination for this kind of thing. I think what Tennessee fans would point out, though, there are times where he gets really rough with his body. Like, his elbows are up and he's moving people around. And, if you're looking for that on X or Instagram or wherever you look for videos, you can find it. And like I said on CBS Sports HQ, if you are looking for moments just to, highlight what Rick Barnes said after the game and what, frankly, it feels like every Tennessee fan is saying about him camping out in the lane. If you want to find moments like where he, by the letter of the law, should be called for a lane violation, a 3-second violation, they're there. You can find them. I guess I would just ask you this. When do you even remember seeing a 3-second call in college basketball? When's the last time you saw one?
It's a rare deal. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it just seems crazy to me that Tennessee fans are screaming, where were the 3-second calls? They just don't exist. They're not real. They don't really, you don't see them. So if you were sitting around hoping today was going to be the day where Zach Edey got called for a bunch of 3-second calls, like that it wasn't going to happen. That was a poor strategy if you thought that was going to be the way you get in this thing. Like, that's the way he plays. They have forever let him play that way. And you have to adjust to it rather than complain about it. Because if you don't adjust to it, you'll just be complaining about it after a loss.
Yeah, and listen, I want to give Tennessee credit on a wonderful season, and Rick Barnes and his team living up to their seed expectation. You're a 2 seed. You're expected to make this round, and if you lose to a higher seeded, better seeded team, well, then there you go, and that's exactly what happened. Dalton Connect, you had an incredible year, And in fact, if you tell me we look up 5 years from now and there hasn't been a transfer that has a better season than what Connect just pulled off, I will believe you. What he did was outstanding, and he made Tennessee viable on the offensive end and exciting on the offensive end in a way that we haven't seen with other Barnes teams, even the group from 2019 that also got knocked out against a different type of Purdue team in the 2019 Sweet 16. I was there. That game happened in Louisville. So credit to Tennessee. And listen, Barnes he's been to a Final Four. It's been 2 decades. This team had a really good shot to do it. It went up against, the most dominant player in the sport and couldn't work around it. And he needed 40, and he needed all 40 to get past you. So you should take pride in that. It does sting. I get it. He's a different kind of player. And although he's not as good or as skilled or as dominant as the likes of a Lou Alcindor, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Walton, he does do things that when I hear people either comment or complain about how he changed the game, it reminds me of when I would grow up and either watch old television programming, that when you'd have people that saw them talk about these players, or people, now just, they had to outlaw the dunk because of Lou Alcindor, a real thing that actually happened in D1 college basketball because it was considered unfair at the time. If they had social media back in the late 60s, although Alcindor was a transcendent high school prospect, again, these two, there's no true comparison. Alcindor's the greatest college player that ever was. He was a game changer. Edey is made to be a game changer in different kind of ways. He is a bigger human being overall. And by the way, he now crossed 900 points and 450 rebounds in a season. Again, like, the argument against Edey is over. It's done. You're not dying on the hill. If you're trying to make the argument, you are dead. You are dead on the hill. The only players ever to go for 900 points and 450 boards in a season are Bird, Elvin Hayes, Oscar Robertson, and Rick Barry. Go check out what he did in college. And Edey, that's it. It's done. We're moving on. He's going to the Final Four. He's done an incredible thing, produced an amazing story. They break through. We'll see if they can get a win or two here from for the rest of the season, Parrish. But this absolves a lot of what last year brought. The full redemptive arc would require an outright NCAA championship. We'll see if they can get there. But I'm impressed on the whole with what Purdue has done from the go, from the very start of the season to now. It's one of the better stories we've seen in college sports in the past 5 years, right up there with Virginia and pretty much anything else you want to put there.
Obviously, Purdue is not satisfied, should not be satisfied. They're good enough to win a national championship, and that is the goal. But do you agree with this? Perhaps the entire arc isn't complete. To steal a wrestling phrase, the story isn't finished yet. But the Purdue jokes are over, right? I mean, just by getting to the Final Four,
here's why they're not. Here's why they're not for some.
Because if they were to lose, they would lose to NC State.
And no, not just that. It would be another loss in the tournament against a double-digit
seed. I know.
Hold on. We are not. No.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
No.
Okay. The jokes are done as long as they get to the title game, even if they lose to UConn. Is that fair?
I would think that's entirely fair, but a double-digit loss in the tournament still is on the table.
A loss to a double-digit seed is still possible. Just some more stuff on Edey, and then one last thing on Tennessee, and then we'll get to DJ Burns.
Let's go. I'm ready now. But yeah, finish up.
We've been talking at least 3 times a week since November. Have you ever said DJ Burns' name one time?
I've been thinking, and I no, I have. Yeah, well, not until earlier this month, but that's the tournament. That's the tournament. That's why it's incredible now.
In addition to the 900 points and 450 rebounds this season for Zach Edey, he also has 120 points and 65 rebounds so far in this NCAA tournament, according to Jared Burson, who is the godfather of ESPN Stats and Info. He's the first person with this many points and rebounds in an NCAA tournament since Larry Bird in 1979. First player to get 40 and 15 in an NCAA tournament game since Bo Kimball, 1990. There's just a lot of historically great stuff connected to Zach Edey, and that is because he's a historically great college basketball player. On Tennessee, I'll just leave it here. That's one of the best seasons in Tennessee basketball history. I know it ended in a disappointing way, and I know that you might never's a long time, but it's possible. It'll be a long time before you have another difference maker, shot creator, NBA prospect like Dalton Connect. And so on some level, missed opportunity, I guess. You're in a tie game with just a few minutes to go, trip to the Final Four on the line. But Tennessee has only won 12 conference regular season titles in history. They got one this season. Tennessee has only made 2 Elite Eights in history. One of them is this season. Tennessee hasn't had a top 10 NBA draft pick since 1983. Dawn Connect could change that.